Hey guys, Daniel James here, and today we're going to be taking a look at Cinesamples' new library, which is CinePerc. The CinePerc series is actually 4 libraries which make up, the CinePerc series. Today we're going to be taking a look at the first of those 4, which is Sinopec Core, which is like the basic instruments, the ones that get you off the ground running, the ones that will cover most areas. And yeah, so what I've done is I've written a track in the background that we're going to take a listen to now. And then what we're going to do is dissect that track, and I'll show you which instruments I used, why, and how I set them up and such. So here we go. So there's the short track I wrote, and yeah, as you could hear, it wasn't like my usual kind of big trailerish kind of epic. You may have noticed it was quite big and actiony, but it wasn't like my trailer pieces. And the reason that is with this core demonstration, what I wanted to show was that the kind of sound you get with CinePerc, while it can do the big trailery things, trailer epic is normally like over processed percussion, and things are intentionally unrealistic. Whereas when you listen to like a Hollywood film or something, like you get your big action track, unless it's like something like Tron, which is intentionally processed to hell. Actually, Tron may have this, but anyway, I digress. When you listen to like a big Hollywood action film, the percussion is very realistic sounding. It's very natural sounding, but it's very big. So it's you get that kind of organic feel. Which, I mean, like, of course, there's exceptions to that rule, and not all of them do it. But, like, you listen to maybe like a Hans Zimmer or a Brian Tyler, or, maybe even a James Newton Howard. When they do, like, big action, you get that kind of realistic sounding percussion. So, yeah, what is CinePerc? Let's start there, like we normally do. Like I say, it's part of the foursome of the CinePerc series, and it's the first one, so it's intention is to cover the basics, so because of which you get 2 bass drums, which nicely cover your bottom end. You get concert toms, which is both low, mid and high toms, which is great. Glockenspiel, which is very high. Glockenspielish. Glockenspielish, is that a word? I don't know how would you glockenspiel. Anyway, gongs and tam tams, so they're like your cymbals, which going in the cymbals you get your orchestral cymbals. Then you get your snares, both piccolo and military. And then you get some tambourines, which are cool for that, extra little bit of high. And timpani, I love the timpani in this, but we'll get to that in a minute. You get both effects and a multi-sample timpani. Triangles, which are good, for triangly things. Tubular bells. Tubular bells are actually, it's like a secret weapon almost. They're not quite a lot of people use them, but they're a very subtle instrument. But they add like a very kind of noble, big, powerful impact. But I've used some of them in the track. You probably didn't even notice, but yeah, I do like a tubular bell. And then xylophone, which again is very high end. So as you can see, you've got like every sonic zone covered. You've got your bass, your mid, and your highs. So CinePerc Core, the good thing about it is it does cover the basics. As you heard, the percussion track in the background was all CinePerc Core. I've not used any other libraries. I've not used any of the other CinePerc packs. It's just the core. And I had quite, in my opinion anyway, I had a pretty full realistic sound. So you know that's a good plus to begin with. There are, if you want like an in-depth look at how to use the interface and such, I know that Cinesamples did actually just put up their own almost like tutorial videos for this library, so I'll just gloss over it a little bit. I'll just show you the basics of what things are. So as you can see, the user interface is on par with their other Cine libraries, not Cine libraries as I normally say. It's got a very uniform look. So as always, these faders here control the mic positions. So as you can see down here, close mic, overhead, mid, quad. And while normally in the Cinesamples and every other library, I'm normally not a big changer of mic position. You know, I just go with, you know, the stage mic or whatever. In this percussion library, it's actually quite important because 80% of a percussion instrument sound is based on the room it's in. And because again they've recorded at the Sony scoring stage, it's got a really fantastic, like, great room sound. So you know, I found myself spending longer than I should have done just tweaking mic balance, you know, and getting like that room sound I wanted, particularly on things I didn't think I would, you know, like the glockenspiel. I didn't think I'd be trying to mess with mic positions on a glockenspiel, but we'll get to that in a second. So just going into the UI again, you get like your usual mapping thing where you can change your dynamics, you know, how the velocity, the hit dynamics are done and all that. And then you get all your effects and reverb and all that kind of good stuff on there. So the user interface, if you've seen my other Cinesamples video, very uniform, very useful. So what we'll do now is we shall, let's go, let's start from the beginning. So how do we kick this thing off? So it begins like this. So already we've got like a big intro. I'll just solo percussion. And that was the first thing you hear was the timpani, I believe. So let's just dive in at the deep end. No armbands. Right, here we go. Where did I put the timpani? It's not where it should be. Timpani, there it is. It's number 2. So the timpani. Let's start with the timpani because we can. So we start with the roll. Let's just go and have a look. So this, I believe, I actually used the custom roll feature, which is really cool. So say you've got what key is this actually on? So like when you get like normal libraries, you have preset like rolls. You know, the rolls have been pre-recorded, and you know you have to like tweak where the MIDI note is, you know, to make it land on the beat. Cinesamples have done a cool little feature where you can hold a note and it will just keep rolling, and then you use the mod wheel you know, you can go really quiet, and then when you let go you get a hit. So you could create your own rolls, which is great if you want to do something dynamic. You know, you want to trick people into thinking you're going to go epic and then bring it back down low. And it's also good for laying with tremolos, but that's a conversation for a whole different party. So yeah, that's a cool little feature. So let's take a look at what I did with the timpani. So you can see here, which I didn't mention a second ago, is that you have these presets. I guess you call them mic positions. So Dennis Sands is like the full mix, like what they have decided is the best kind of best of both worlds when it comes to what mic positions and such you want. There we go. So I've gone for the trailer thing because the sound of the timpani, like I mentioned a second ago, is my favorite timpani ever. Like, it really is a fantastic one. So let me just click the Dennis Sands so you can see the difference. It's the Dennis Sands, and then this is the trailer. It's a subtle difference, but you know, it makes it a little bit bigger. So we started with the roll, and then we go into this this kind of this dun 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 dun. And what I wanted to show here is that it's you know, that big. It's not all the timpani samples that are out there have got the snap. When you hit a timpani hard, it's got that kind of snap on top. You know. And the other thing, the reason I like this timpani the most, which I didn't actually make too much use of, maybe here, is that it's got the best soft sounding samples of any timpani I've ever heard. You know, it can do, so it does the snap of the loud, but it also does really nice soft tone to it, which is brilliant. The rhythm I've got going on here, incidentally, is just it's basically going up against the double bass, which is like this. Double bass just hitting the accents. So there's the timpani. Let's just, what else happened at the beginning? Oh yeah, we had the orchestral cymbals. And these orchestral cymbals are my now go-to cymbals. I have a lot of cymbals, and normally they're very sibilant, if that's the correct term. Very harsh on the ears. Where are we? 5, I think. These ones, however, are nice and clean. I've gone with the full mix setting. As you can hear, I'm hitting the accents with the cymbal, you know, to add a little bit of high end onto the thing. So the cymbals are actually kind of cool. Like I said, I went with the no, I'm soloing the wrong thing. Soloing the wrong thing. Come down. Here we go. So yeah, here we go. This is what you should have been looking at. I'm actually doubling. I'm doubling the double bass with the cymbals. Like I mentioned in a few of my videos, layering is very important. So if you layer like a high-end instrument with a low-end instrument, you perceive it as one instrument. So you know it's good to put like lows and highs together. And I cocked it up twice in a row, but let's just pretend that didn't happen. Yeah, so the cymbals, like I mentioned, they're very clean sounding, without sounding sibilant, which is great. Where are we? Where we gone? Where we gone? And with the cymbals, you get a lot of different sounds. You know, you get like all your rolly types. God, I'm pushing the wrong ones. Contact needs to change this. You see these buttons down here right now? They're on the timpani, even though I'm meant to be changing the cymbals, but I have to click on it anyway. There we go. These are your rolls down here, and as you heard then, if you look at the mod wheel, they've, like I mentioned with the timpanis, they've also got the rolls on the cymbals as well, which is great. Which I didn't use, but that's my mistake, but here we go. Cool sounds there. So they're your basic cymbal sounds. Let me try putting the cymbals in a different room. Like I say, I went with those. So like if I click close and tight, mid room, ambient, trailer, custom mix is all off, but you could set your own. So like you can hear, the Dennis Sands mix, the full mix as it's called here, is normally like the best of both worlds. But like it's there are better examples of how to mix microphones, so we'll carry on with that in a second. So we got those. Let me talk about the bass drums while we're here. So the bass drums are interesting ones, to say the least, because you never know whether you want them to be quite clean or if you want them to be quite bassy. So what I did is I did both. Because it comes with two bass drums, I thought, what the hey, I'll use both. So I've got one which is very kind of bassy, which is the number 2, and then I've got these ones, and they're both using the quad mics, which not all of them have, but it comes under the trailer mix. So, and then the Dennis Sands sounds that. As you can hear, the Dennis Sands one's more like a soft, clean sound. You know, that'd be good for like your softer kind of. Whereas with the trailers, it's very big and in your face. Again, you can hear a lot of the room there. The close mics are quite. Mid-room. Ambient. But again, trailer mic has got both quads on, which I actually really like. And a good going on to the like the mic positions, you know, like say that I didn't like it, like this didn't have enough definition. I can always turn on the close mics. I'll need to unmute these. Oh, maybe I can't have those on at the same time. Doesn't like me. Okay, it appears you can't have the quad on with everything else. There you go. You've got to fail in front of everybody for it to be a fail. So I could turn on like the, yeah, I could turn on like the mid mic. And then the Lfe Sub is basically what it sounds like. It's sub oscillators. Well, it's like sub sounds. So I don't think you can have. I think you can only have that on with the quads. Yeah. Turn these off. So that's like the really sub bassy stuff, you know. If you want the extra sub, but I've actually in the track I put an actual bass line in, so I turned those off. I think I actually cut some bass out of it, so the line I'm playing on the bass drum is just the accents, you know. So sorry, there we go. And if I just hit one note and then we listen to the reverb of the room. Let me just make sure I haven't actually got external reverb on. You can hear the room, which is, you know, which is really important on these percussion. Oh, I'll just hit this one. I mean, I don't know if you noticed how much reverb there is in those samples, but they are, the room makes them sound, you know, larger than life. So let's come down and take a listen to these toms we've got going on down here. These are the concert toms, which are no, and you can see I've got a bit of a, I did have the trailer mix going on. So like I failed up here, it looks like you can't have the close with the quads, which is fine, that's their decision. But things like concert toms, I initially had it on the trailer mix, which sounds like this. Don't worry, that wasn't played out of time, it's just loading in. And as you can hear, they're quite far away. And again, that makes sense because it's only the room microphones. But I wanted a little bit more definition. The original Dennis Sands sound was like this. And that was too defined. You see, I'm a bit picky when it comes to toms. So I clicked the full mix and it was a bit too defined, up in your face, which I didn't want. So I thought, okay, I'll push it back into the room. So I've got the room and surround, and then it wasn't defined enough for me. So I just whacked on the close mics, and I just mixed them in to add until I had definition. And as you can hear, now I've got a defined room sound. And if I wanted, I could put reverb on this. Again, this is what it sounds like without the close mic for definition. And you can, I'm hoping you can tell the difference in those sounds. Of course, I'm wearing headphones right now, so, you know, I can hear the difference very clearly. But if you're on speakers, I mean, I could have tried the overheads. Let's try with the overheads. Now the overheads make it a little bit more defined, but they keep it in its spatial position. The close mics, by nature of being close, normally end up quite central. You know, they end up quite, not always, but unless they've, you know, been panned. But close mics are normally pointing directly at something, so it will be down the middle of your channel. Whereas when you get room microphones, normally you'll have the microphones set up, you know, into the room, so things might appear more on the left or on the right. So the overheads here, I don't know if you notice the difference. The sound actually comes more from the left. I mean, you can see it up here. The overhead's in the left channel, so it's adding a really nice, like, say I wanted to push it more into the left of the speaker. Having the overhead adds definition, but it's definition over on the left-hand side. About the mid mic. Now the mid mic pushes it right to the back of the room. The room mic sounds like this, which is quite close actually, now I think about it. Surround is almost like it's recorded from the other side of the hall. So I actually prefer the close mic like this. Now with the toms, I'm basically playing a like a fast pattern. Here we go. So I've got the lower toms. Stop. I actually meant to have those there. You know, you live and learn. They're basically, again, everything's based around this dum 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 rhythm. And with the high toms are normally, when it comes to rhythms and things, I normally put like on the highest instrument, I have like my shuffly kind of rhythm. This is where I do like my you know, my offbeat rhythms and all my I forget the term, my rhythmic offbeats. So, you know, here I'm actually accenting the correct things. So my accents are, as you can see, that's exactly where these ones fall. However, here I've got one here, and then I've got like an accent just off the beat, then just off the beat, which is da ba da ba. Again, you would never notice this in a mix. When I put it in the track, you won't notice it. 330% of my CPU. There we go. Just while it loads it in. You'll have to forgive the clicks and pops whenever I load in the whenever I load in a new instrument. The computer panics for a few minutes. Here we go. Let's see if you can actually notice these these offbeat rhythms. You probably won't, but it adds, what it does add is like a subtle shift in the overall, you know, kind of rhythm, which is what gives it that kind of shuffly feel. You don't notice it, but you do feel it. I'll put it on just percussion. Again, you would never notice it unless I pointed it out, but you would feel it. You see, it's just a subtle. I'm just doing shabba, but it's like da 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 da. Again, it's I'm a big kind of rhythm fan, so you know things like this you would never notice. So the low toms and that are just, you know, following again, like I mentioned a second ago, the double bass line, except I'm adding like these little these gracie kind of notes. You know, and the brass is doubling that as well. Bum bum bum. Okay, so let's move down a note. So this is the timpani again. Again, I love that sound. So what we got here? Aha! Tubular. I don't know why I said it like that. Tubular bells. Take a look at the tubular bells. Now the tubular bells, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, are very kind of like underrated instruments because they are essentially just big metal poles that you hit with a hammer. But there's, I mean, particularly like the not, I don't know if they're more modern, but like in the big action films of like, you know, recent years, normally you'll hear like one of these big tubular bell hits and it's always on a one, and there's something about that bum just adds like an epicness. Let me try loading in the double bass. If I just put the tubular bell on top. Yeah, there's something about it. I don't know how you would describe it. It makes it feel more serious, more intent, you know. The word I used at the beginning was noble. It makes it feel very kind of, that impact is important, you know, because it's a bang, listen to me, dong. If I take it out, you notice that one downbeat just almost disappears. It doesn't disappear, it's just, it doesn't feel like it's important, you know. So I normally put, like, you can see I've actually used quite a lot of tubular bells here, and they're all on what I consider important downbeats. And now if I put that in the track, so if you listen to this, oh, if I put that in the track now, again, you'll have to forgive me. My computer has whenever I'm recording and play music back at the same time, if I change anything, it starts to go crazy. Just play the whole percussion section there. Again, it's subtle, but if I take it out, I think it's maybe the way it sustains after you hit it, you know, that kind of dong. This is an important note. Listen to me. Everybody get on the bus. You know, why? You know, it makes you feel like that is an important beat to listen to. It almost indicates that that's where it is. One of the cool things about this sound is that a lot of other percussion samples that have a tubular bell, it's very either Either it's too dry, like there isn't enough reverb, or there's too much sibilance when you put reverb on. You know, it's just, you have to mix them. These ones are just, you know, very clean sounding. And the cool thing is because you've got all these mic positions, you know, if I put it up close and personal, see, that pushes it right to the back of the room. I love it. I mean, imagine if you were doing, going back to these mic positions and why I think they're important. You know, if you're doing like let's say like a horror score, or, you know, something like that, pushing it to the back of the room gives it almost a more eerie vibe. And another thing that I like about these is, say for example, you're working on a score and you record live strings or something like this. These mic positions come in very handy because they're recorded where you would actually put the microphone. Say you wanted to put like the Tubular Bells behind the string section. If it sounds like this, you know what I mean? Even with reverb, you know, you know what I mean? You'd have to do a lot of editing to make that sound sit behind a string section. You know what I mean? It would always be an upfront element. But say you've got like, you know, your string section, which is recorded in the room, and you whack on a mid microphone. It's almost like you can, in 3D, see that there's a gap between where the sound's coming from and where you're hearing it. And if you've got strings which are placed in front of that, which I could probably do. You could probably hear that Tubular Bell sounds like it's behind those strings. If I put it on the close again. I don't know how well you can notice the difference, but again, I'll put it on an ambient mic. It sounds like they're in the same room. I didn't listen to the trailer mix. That sounds like it's over to the left again. So if I was doing this track and I just had a section where it was, I mean, at the minute I'm using the Dennis Sands for the track. I've actually got this one, which does it sounds like this will be weird, but it sounds like it's if you imagine your strings are sitting in front of you, it sounds like it's level with the strings, so it's in amongst the strings over to the left. This is behind the strings, this is up in your face, and this is in the back. You can hear how I'm physically moving it in 3D space just by changing the mic positions. And say like I had the back room and I wanted to bring it a bit further forward. I could just up the close mic. There we go. So now it's sitting right, maybe a little bit less. Now it feels like it's sitting right behind the strings. To me anyway. You may think I'm crazy. I mean, we could try that same principle. Let's try it with the toms. So there, it's up in your face. Let me try. I put it in the room. Sounds like it's behind. Ambient should be really far back. I can't remember what I had it on now. I think it was this. Yeah. And I hope you can appreciate. Again, if you didn't notice any difference, try listening to that section again with headphones. It makes a lot more sense. So yeah, Tubular Bells, do like them. Bit of a ramble there, but here we go. So next we've got. Now this is the tambourine. The tambourines are actually great. Let me load up this. I'll stop saying everything's great in a second. When everything is, it sounds like I'm just repeating myself. But okay, so tambourines. I've gone with the full mix, and let's just take a look at what keys we can actually hit. So you've got like your rolls. This is what I found is in the I mean, I wasn't sure if there's a manual. If there is, I didn't check it yet. But so like D and E, D and C, and maybe D, C, C, D, and E are normally hits, and then D flat and E flat are either like alternate hits or like stick hits if you've got snares, and then you have the F is like a roll, not F. B is a roll for the, you know. So like if you go, yeah, and these are the ones on B are mod wheel controlled, you know. So you're out in the desert, you know, you've got your steel guitar and then some of this, you know, your rattlesnake vibe. So that's a pretty cool thing. Let me try throwing the mics around. Yeah, so what I normally use a tambourine for is to add shuffle. Like, so your low instruments, you know, are just normally accenting the beat. The middle are kind of setting the funkiness, you know, they're actually setting the rhythm. And then the high instruments I normally use to shuffle, which is like, that's where I do like my offbeats and my, you know, polyrhythms. That's the word I was looking for earlier. I do polyrhythms with the high instruments. So and you see, it's like I was mentioning with the toms earlier, it's only slightly offbeat in places, but that just adds like an extra shuffle where you don't expect it. And going back to what I was mentioning earlier about the with the cymbals, how I layer it with the low instruments. I do that because your brain can only process like sounds. It can only basically process one sound at a time. So if you layer things together, you hear it as one sound instead of two sounds on top of each other. So I normally put the high instruments like when they're shuffling, so they'll be with an instrument. So in this case, it should be accented pretty much all the downbeats. But then when it's not with a low instrument, you only hear the high instrument, so you hear more of a shuffle. So it sounds like the tambourine's moving in and out of space. That's a hard concept to explain to people. I mean, I know what it means in my head, but I'll try mentioning it again. So like these four, for example, are not layered with anything lower, with any instruments lower than what it is, but pretty much all of these are. So you'll hear these ones as part of the lower instrument, but when you get to this section, you'll hear these as tambourine, which kind of gives your ear like a new flavor. If you compare it to taste, it's like a slightly sugary bit on top. If you listen to that again, listen how these are not layered with anything else. You see, they kind of shuffle by themselves. I think they are actually layered with some toms, but the toms aren't loud. But you hear how they kind of peel themselves away from being part of another instrument and become their own, which again is just a subtle thing, but you put it in the mix of the whole percussion section. If I take the tambourines away, when you'll hear a slight difference. You know, it just becomes a little bit more stale. And it's like this is like one of the prime things, not mistakes. I mean, this is just from my point of view. One of the things that some people overlook is that a lot of people will like try and do like an epic trailer music or something, and they'll add all the bits that you hear up front. You know, they'll add the big drums, the big horns, and what they like forget to realize is that a lot of these like big production tracks are not just the big things. It's normally a collection of a lot of subtle things put together which make that big thing. So yeah, a little bit of philosophy for you there. I'm not sure why I went off on that, but yeah. So next we go on to the snares. The snares are great, as I've said for everything so far. And you get different variations. I think I've only got the piccolo snare going on here, and I've gone with the up in your face one, because if you listen to the track, the snare is like the main percussion instrument. You know, I wanted this one to be like the focus, to make it sound more militaristic, you know, or actionish. So you get different variations on the snare as you look down here. Again, C and D are the hits. So I think I just used like a middle one here. And like I mentioned, the C sharp and D sharp are normally like the rim shots, or you know, stick hits or such. B again is the mod control roll. Sorry. It actually adds a hit to the end of a roll. And what I normally do is I set where, like I have here, is I normally do like a rhythmic pattern with my snare, and then I'll do a roll into it. So I'll normally set my mod wheel roughly where the at the intensity of where my my hits are going to be. So if I'm hitting like this and the mod wheel's up that loud, it sounds wrong. So I'll just pull the mod wheel down. Like if you see here, I'll just solo it out actually. Okay, apparently I won't. See, if I set this high, it'll sound out of place. So I just set it roughly where, so it fits in with the rest of the notes. Again, these are round robins, so you can do some really fast passages with them. I normally do like accented rhythms, like if you listen to the track, it's normally hitting around the main accents. So ba dun 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 dun, you can actually turn the you can take the snare off. There we go. By using key switch D, I imagine that's what, -1, Z0. That's good for pushing things back into a room. Where am I? Mix that with a mid mic. Funny, I just put on the trailer mix mic, and I think I actually prefer that to what I had with the Dennis Sands. Effects because it's still loading in the instrument. That's where you get all the clicks and pops. So there's the snare. And then moving down, we've got some of this. This is the gongs and tam-tams, I believe. Now the track itself is a it's a very action, very kind of desperate sounding track. So I wanted to throw in a few like little effects and things, to add to that. So I went with the gong, like scrape, and I've got up here. I've just got the like stick hits on the gong or tam-tam, whatever it's called, that are doing just accents. Again, going back to the layering it up so it sounds like one larger instrument as opposed to lots of little ones. And gong swells and cymbal swells are good ways to transition from one section to the next. Gongs actually sound quite good when you mess them around in the again, going back to pushing things back in a room. You can hear how just putting on that one microphone change pushes it so far back into the room. Again, very subtle, but nice. So then we move into this section here. It's quite not repetitive, but I keep a lot of the rhythms the same. So this part I just wanted to change it up a little bit, and I bring in this melody. Let me just play it on the horns. One good trick for making a melody stand out is to layer it with something not unexpected, but something like sharp and subtle. Subtlety is the key. So here I've got myself a glockenspiel, and I'm just playing the melody, which sounds like this. Get over here. I'll just layer it with the string melody. Again, it all goes back to what I was saying earlier about you can only hear one sound at a time. So you hear, because these are layered, you hear the strings have got like an extra sheen on top of them because of the glockenspiel. And with the glockenspiel, I believe I actually did push it back into the room. Same reason with the tubular bells is with the, some things you want to sit behind the, strings, or the rest of the instruments. Originally, it sounded like this. And for that to make sense, your head would physically have to be inside the glockenspiel. I mean, you may have some nutter that decides that's how he wants to roll, but most people wouldn't do that. So, and when you've got things up front that don't need to be there, it detracts from what you actually want the audience to hear. Because when you're writing a track, like I've said in a few videos, you get like a background, midground, and foreground, and the people that listen to your track are only listening. They can hear everything in the track, obviously, but they're only listening to the foreground. Like they're actively following something, and that should be as a composer, that should be your focus, to give them something to follow. Like you give them the thread to follow. It's like when you watch a movie, you see all the other actors, but you follow the main character, and that's by design. You know, if you didn't have a main character to follow, and you know, you'd find it hard to pick up where the story is. So like when you're composing, you need that foreground, something for the listener to almost guide them through the track, you know, through all these different textures that you've set up with the other instruments. Of course, so the midground directly supports the foreground. That's normally your counter melodies and stuff. The background is just like the ambience, which makes it feel, you know, how does the track feel? So a glockenspiel, for example, being a, you know, I could make them just listen to the glockenspiel, but the glockenspiel has like a certain kind of magical kind of feel to it. So if it's sitting up front, it makes that line sound quite whimsical, and that's not the intent of what I want them to feel. But I want them to feel like the strings have got a sheen, not the glockenspiel's got a strings part to it, which is. So, you know, to get around that, I just force it back in the room by putting it on the room mic. You know, just forces it back in the room, and then it becomes, instead of it being a foreground element, it's now a midground element. So it's a supporting role, which is what I want, you know, because the focus is not the glockenspiel, it's the strings and the horns. And when you, and that's another thing that happens, is when you've got things in the foreground that shouldn't be there. I mean, this is the biggest mistake of a lot of people who are just starting out, is they think everything needs to be heard, you know, everything needs to be loud. So if they're doing an action track, the drums are really loud and they're the same level as the melody line, which is the same level as the hi-hats. You know what I mean? A hi-hat can be really subtle in the background because it's a midground element. It just needs to do its job. It doesn't need to be heard. It's like I'm saying with all my polyrhythms, you know, just because you can't actively hear that tom that's hitting the offbeat rhythm doesn't mean that it's not adding to the texture of the track. You know, again with the tambourine, just having that subtle little thing where it goes, you know, where it separates itself from the bass instrument. Just things like that. You don't hear it per se. It just adds to the texture. And you know, because like I was quite proud of the way that tambourine did that little shuffle. But it would be a mistake for me to turn the tambourine all the way up just so that you could hear, you know, listen to my great idea. That's not the point of the track. The point of the track is to support those melodies. And in this case, I actually tried to make the foreground element. I mean, see if you can notice the foreground element at the beginning is actually it's the ostinato on the percussion. It's a dun 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 dun. So I'm highlighting that with the brass. If you listen. That rhythm is actually the foreground element. If you listen to it in context of the track, everything is supporting that rhythm. And in this midground section, that rhythm is no longer the focus. The focus shifts to the melody. It's again, so the foreground you can clearly hear goes from an ostinato to a melody, which is important. This snare's a little bit loud in this section at the minute. That's because I just changed the mic position. I could, of course, just bring these down. The reason I've got the what did I do? No, I don't want to close. The reason the snares are still playing this is it's consistency. You know, if I just completely changed it would sound like I've just strung two pieces of track together. So maintaining like a common thread throughout both. So listen, it changes from the ostinato into a melody. So I don't know if you noticed that, and that's you know, I've ended up going from library to compositional, you know, philosophy, but whatevs. My video, do what I want. I'm joking. So So yeah, that's pretty much all the instruments I used. In this section here, I wanted to show how they work, how these instruments can also do quiet. So I've got them all loud here. And then this section, they all go a bit softer. Yes. And as you can see, other than this instrument here and, you know, the tam-tam, so no tambourine and no tam-tams, all the other instruments are pretty much playing identical pieces. I wanted to show how they could sound so different just by you know, the amount of velocity they've recorded in the library. So the loud is like this. And then the quiet's like this. And then we change into loud again over here. My computer's taking a shit. So, you know, in this big ending section, again, I think goes back to the... I'm going to kind of like be the exception to my own rule here. So I was talking about foreground and such. In this section here, I didn't actually want a foreground. I just wanted like a kind of texture. I guess if anything, the choir takes the foreground. But the lack of foreground can also be a part, you know, it's like how silence can also be used as an instrument. But anyway, and then we've got this big build up towards the end. Clicks and pops everywhere. But yeah, so the ending was designed to be chaos. That's the idea I went with. So the toms are doing like some, the timpani's doing. I actually wanted to show, like, you know, as you can see here, I've just drawn like an ascending rhythm. I didn't want it to be a roll. I just wanted it to be like 16th hits, which sounds. And you can hear how that almost becomes a roll just in itself, you know, because the round robins are there for the, you know, for it to happen. Okay, so that is pretty much everything that I did in the track. Again, I've got some... God. Okay, that's nothing. Yeah, I've got some of those bad boys in there. And some big cymbal swells. More tubular bells. Yeah, so I've pretty much covered everything that I did in the track. I think the only instrument I didn't use, which I shall show you now, is the xylophone. I didn't make use of it, so... Timpani Effects. Oh, I didn't do Timpani Effects. Let me show you Timpani Effects. So there you cool little Timpani Effects. I've got some bowed cymbals. You can imagine what these are going to sound like. Great for tension and horror scores. Again, another good thing about the bowed cymbals is you've got the room and ambient mics, you know, to throw them into the back of a room, particularly on horror scores if you've got, because like I was mentioning earlier, it creates that 3D space, you know, so if you've got something in the, you know, in an actual space, you can throw these behind them in like audio 3D. Or have them right up in your face. So there's your orchestral cymbals. Do dun 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 dun. Triangles. Let's have a look at triangles. I don't know about you. Triangles always sound quite creepy to me. Oh, yeah. And then we've done Tubular Bells. I think there was one more xylophone. Where's the xylophone? And then we've got the xylophone. It's cool sounding. So just click on this. I think it works with the sustain pedal brings on the rolls. Yeah. Throw it into the middle of the room. And these all come in with a little bit of reverb on. You know, you can whack it right up. You can hear how far that pushes it back into the room. I love when that little red thing comes on and tells me no. Close mics are like this. I imagine if you're doing, you know, something like a cartoon where you need to Mickey Mouse a lot, you know. And the reverb there is actually quite loud because I've got my own reverb on. The trailer xylophone. You need more trailer xylophone. So yeah, that's pretty much everything that you get within Core. Like I said at the beginning, you know, it covers the bases. You know, you get the sound that, you know, that kind of Hollywood Sony scoring stage sound, which is very important for percussion. Again, like I mentioned at the beginning, the best percussion that you'll hear out there. I mean, think of any percussion libraries that you think are fantastic, and then ask yourself how much of that is the actual drum that's being hit and how much of it is the room it's being played in. There's just something about the room with percussion that makes it, you know, more important. Sometimes with strings and things, you know, you can record them in funny places and they still sound good because, you know, strings just sound good whether I mean, that's stretching it a little bit, you know, because the room is kind of important. But, you know, you could record strings in a relatively bad room and still kind of get a good outcome. I'm not amazing. I know it's not an either or, you know, it's a very grey area that, but with percussion, you'll find that the best, you know, the better libraries are recorded in better spaces. You know, you can think of all the other sample libraries that are out there. The good ones are recorded in good spaces, and the best thing, the thing that I'm loving the most about the CinePerc ones is that because you get the options of mic positions, which some of them do offer mic positions, but because, you know, of how well recorded the mic positions are, you really can you really can tweak the percussion to make it sit perfectly. And that's, you know, sometimes with some libraries, you know, the reverb's baked in, or, you know, you can't change it. It'll sound great, but it'll only sound great in certain situations. The best thing about this is because it covers the bass, and you get so much like flexibility with the mic positions, and, you know, and how much you know, and how much balance you get between them. You really can kind of put it in a space that you want it to be in. I mean, normally when I do these tracks, you know, I have everything big and loud and lots of reverb and stuff. But like I said here with the glockenspiel, for example, just being able to put it behind the strings meant that I could use the glockenspiel, because normally when I use something like that, it's recorded too close, you know. It's recorded right up in your face, so it becomes a foreground instrument, which I don't want. So instead of spending the time having to filter out like the frequencies to push it back a bit, and then having to add reverb that doesn't drown it out because I've filtered it so much, just to put it in the background, and it still sounds a little bit fake, you know what I mean? Instead of having to do that, now I can just click a room mic, you know, and it's forced it in 3D space behind the strings, so it becomes a mid-ground instrument. So you know, it's adding to the sound instead of overtaking it. Yeah, so that's CinePerc Core. I am planning on doing one for Pro and then one for Epic and Aux, a video that is, and a track. So I hope you found this this like overview and you know, little more in-depth look at the mic positions and things of Core. Again, I know that Cinesamples have just put up their own videos, which are more in-depth on to how everything actually works, you know, because my videos are all about how I use them in my, you know, in my setup, in my context. So you know, so they're always a little bit kind of all over the place. So yeah, you can go check those out. You know, let me know what you think of, you know, of the library in the comments. If you've got any questions about it that you think I might know, or, you know, how it might fit into my, you know, my setup or my context, you know, ask me and I'll try and reply to everything. YouTube's just changed its layout, so if I'm slow on the replies, it means that YouTube decided it didn't want to tell me that I had comments and things. But anyway, so thank you guys for watching this, and I shall see you in the next videos. Hope you enjoyed it. See you later.